delay. We had some issues, but they're not a big deal. You don't care. They're boring. Boring issues. Hold on. Let me make sure my thing is going well. There we go. There we go. Good morning, Sat Stackers. Indeed, good morning. Hope you're doing well. Another week for building with Bitcoin. Tommy says, indeed, we got a big week of building. I think they're gonna need it. That's the only thing that ever keeps me up at night. Have we built enough? T Dog Yo Yo. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Good morning, T Dog. Good morning, fam. I wake up every morning truly grateful that Bitcoin has chosen me to fight the good fight. That's a great way to put it, Ben. I'm in the same boat. Tom. Good morning. Good morning. Bon matin. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Hoddle T, Washington. Wake up to breakup. That's a good way to put it. I like it. Good day. What a great day. Bitcoin is rising, Habib says. It is. I noticed that. I noticed. Price is up. Good morning. BTC up. Indeed. Bon matin. Mes chers Bitcoiners. Indeed, P-Man. That means good morning, my dear Bitcoiner. Cher is dear. Good morning from East Texas. Beautiful. The green part of Texas. We love it. Good morning, all. Good morning, David. Hello from sunny Florida, land of oranges, sun, and Bitcoin believers. King Mansa Musa. Love it. We love Florida. Good morning from DTB, down the bayou. Love it. Down the bayou. Nice to see you, Joseph. We love the food. We love the food with the spicy coffee. That's true. Yeah, the chicory coffee you got too. You like the chicory stuff, huh? Bon Tattoos. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Andy Benton. Guten Tag. Good morning from Silicon Valley. Wow, great. NPC Hell Pit. NPC Hell Pit. There you go. What do we got from Von Ray? Morning, always thought-provoking artwork. Long live BTC. Yeah, it came out pretty funny today. Came out pretty funny. I liked it. I like it. Good morning, everyone. Okay, I'll jump to the bottom here. Good morning from Maine. Still no power. Oh, geez, yeah, you got the Hurricane Lee over there, right? We're not getting much over here, but I'm not going to Vermont today for that reason. It's a little overcast all day, and it will be tomorrow as well. And I think it's all the effects of the storm. Christine, good morning. We love it. We love it. All right. We see the coffee. Now, I got to mention one more from Chicago, right? We got from Chicago. Good morning from an abandoned stealth bomber overhead. We'll talk about that. Good morning from a shitty Chicago suburb that's cold and filled with crime. Doc Blockchain says, good morning from an abandoned stealth bomber overhead. You're in it, huh? Yeah, because I checked this morning. I looked up to see if the sun had risen, and I saw a fighter jet. And I was like, whoa, is that a fighter jet? So then I called the White House, and they said it wasn't the one they were looking for. They're looking for a different fighter jet. So I had it wrong, right? If you haven't seen, the sun is up, Bitcoin's up, and a abandoned fighter jet is up. But all that's left for us to do is have a coffee and talk about what's new. F-35 flavor. F-35 flavor, indeed. So, we got a public warning this morning, or a public address, right? Where's the missing jet? The government's asking for our help. They lost a jet. An $80 million jet is missing, right? Flying with no pilot, apparently. And the public is asked to cooperate with military authorities as the recovery effort continues. I've seen a lot of people. I saw Iowa Hawk Blog this morning say, it's kind of gray with like white spots, if you see it, let anyone know. You had, a parabolic Jason, whatever his name is, Williams. He says, I found it. Now what do I do? We're getting a lot of great jokes this morning, right? Based on the Jets' last known position and coordination, they're focusing their attention on Charleston and Lake Marion. We'll see what happens, right? We got more Moscow time, though, right? That is definitely as Moscow-timey as it gets, a lost F-35 jet. This one's pretty good, right? This is from the Telegraph. The General Medical Council has removed all references to mother from a maternity document. Now, you don't need to talk to mothers when it's maternity. Come on, there's so much else going on, right? Mothers, who cares about that? Abandoned. Abandoned jet flies into JR. What of all the places it could have crash landed? We had no idea. There you go. It's with the missing sock. Yeah, exactly. It's flown with that the old Air Malaysia or whatever that one was. This one's pretty good. This is from Canada. Debate over pronouns pits parental rights against the rights of children. Experts say, right? So experts are saying that there's a huge debate, they say, over parental rights. Everyone's confused about parental children rights, right? Every day I say that my kids do something, I'm like, what about their rights? What about my kids' rights? It's pretty good. Well, what about the rights here? This is in a town in Michigan. We've talked about this town before. Well, they've taken action. They're done with the pride flag, and not everyone's happy about it. The Washington Post, a pride flag ban sparks accusations of betrayal in a tiny Michigan city. An all-Muslim council's decision to block the display of pride flags on city property in a small Michigan town has angered allies and members of the LGBTQT. You know, you stupid Americans, you did it again, right? You're not keeping up with Canada. In Canada, we know it is now the 2SQL something, something, something. Okay? So this thing about LGBTQT and not even a plus, get the fuck out of here. Come on. Let's get going, Washington Post. How can you be so slow and disrespectful to what's going on in the world? So they're just not keeping up. You know, Canada way ahead with the 2SQ thing. So and we are very 2SQ positive here, right? Very. So there you go. Who feel the support they provided immigrant groups has been reciprocated with betrayal. Oof, geez, not happy. The allies, very upset. Who would have thought? Oh, what? They helped them. They're all on the same side against white people. Why? What do they mean not helping them now? Right? Come on. So Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, had this to say about the plan for London, right? No meat, no dairy, and 3 outfits a year. Welcome to Sadiq Khan's plan for London. The C40, a global group of city mayors chaired by Sadiq Khan, has a radical vision of net zero that critics say will restrict personal choice. Come on, you get a choice. 3 outfits a year, you're fine, right? There's lots to eat other than meat and dairy, too. Come on, he's not taking away choices, guys. He's got a lot out there, right? This one's great. This is California has sued some of the world's biggest oil companies, including Exxon, Shell, BP, Chevron, claiming they resulted in tens of billions of dollars in damage and that they deceived the public by downplaying fossil fuels risk. It's the tobacco play, right? Everyone knows these stupid gas companies are poisoning everyone, right? They got to pay. Enough. Now we got some really great news in America. So I remember when COVID happened, what they actually did in New York City. I was there for the original lockdowns. I was living in New York City. And what they did with all the skyscrapers is they had them colored red, actually, right? It was supposed to be because we're all in it together, right? But it had a really weird effect of like painting the sky red. So it looked like it was like a blood sky every night. The clouds were there. And they're done with that, right? They've changed it today. It's not going to be red. It changes all the time, right? The towers can change all the time. They thought red was the right way to go. Like everyone knows there's nothing more pleasant than a blood red sky at night. During a lockdown, there's nothing more pleasant than that. That's the best, right? So now there's a new thing. The Empire State Building changed its colors yesterday for a special commemorative event. It's a commemorative event, right? The Empire State Building was lit up in Pfizer blue to commemorate the CDC's recommendation of a new COVID mRNA booster for everyone 6 months or older. Pfizer's latest booster received FDA approval based on a study that involved 10 whole mice. They did the whole study. They had 10 mice. Trust it. It's fine, guys. It's not going to be a problem. It's just the best. CNN even let us know, right? Here's a headline, when to get the new COVID-19 vaccine to maximize your protection. Okay. You want to maximize it. So go to CNN.com today and you'll find out exactly when to get the new COVID vaccine. Okay, guys? It's right there. They have all the info for you. CNN Health. And if that's not enough, they had a guy on CNN yesterday, and he wanted to let us know a bit more about the vaccines, right? So, he's a doctor, so he's an expert, guys. This guy's awesome, right? So he went on to CNN yesterday, and he was being asked about the vaccine, and what he said was, it's not just that the viewers heard his good news that the vaccine is great, right? It's got an upside, but it's even better than you think. It's even better. There's even things they don't even know that it will fix, right? So there's unknown upsides, he let us know, right? So everyone should go get it, and you're going to be really happy. I think you're going to be really happy. So Jesus, they really stopped calling them vaccines now. Yeah. So they got the thing, and the idea, like, I don't know what the commercial uptake is going to be on this vaccine. It can't be as high as it was before, but it does remind me of the Bud Light question, right? Because of this consumer products, consumer demand, and what happened. And so there's a report today, and this is our theme for the day, right? That free money, and I don't mean you're going to get free money, I mean freedom money, as in Bitcoin, you get by feeling how funny the world is right today, right? The feeling of how hilarious things are these days in the news is probably more beneficial for Bitcoin than some like logical situation that involves central banks and the yield curve inversion and the 30-year bond interest rate and the overnight interest rate and the spread. Like, there's a lot of logic. That's one way to come to Bitcoin. All right. If you can get your handle on the birth certificate scam and collateralizing human beings and the debt and the overnight rate and the 30-year bond and Treasury's involvement with the Federal Reserve, you can get all that in your head. Now, we talk about it all the time here. You come to the Breakup in the morning and you're going to get all this subject matter, right? We talk about this stuff all the time. But if that's too complicated, the good news is all you got to do is laugh. And when the news actually gets to the point we're at today, where it is literally now impossible to understand if it's a joke or if it's the news, right? An F-35 is gone. Like, what? An F-35, right? Who cares? 80 million bucks, no big deal. They found the pilot, right? He got out. So that's just one of them. But the idea that the news has become so absurd, right? Just before I got on, I read this headline. I can't even keep up sometimes, right? So we're going to talk about all the funny news today, but it's all funny. You can't actually read the news straight anymore. There's no way. And the degree to which it is absurd and hilarious, I think, is way more persuasive to push people towards Bitcoin and to have people themselves realize why Bitcoin is so important. Because, and I'll get into it in a second, the Bud Light thing has some of the clues, but this is fresh off the presses this morning, just before I got on, and it wasn't even in my normal flow. But look at how funny this is. So Hunter Biden is suing the IRS as of this morning for disclosing his taxes. I'm not kidding. He's suing the IRS because they had to share with Freedom of Information and whatever that he, the taxes and the whores, and which he did definitely try to claim the prostitutes as part of the tax stuff. So he's suing the IRS. Now, does he have a case? Like, I'm not an IRS fan. Like, I'm 100% for Hunter and the guns. I say guns for crackheads. I got no problem for guns for crackheads, right? And people say, oh, Hunter Biden committed crimes, right? Well, like, pretty normal crimes when it comes to like, he's not going to go out with a gun and shoot people. He's still their normal crimes. Like, I don't see why someone like that shouldn't have a gun. I don't see why he shouldn't be suing the IRS either. But it's pretty funny. It's pretty funny, right? So we like it, right? So I'm all for Hunter's case against the IRS, just like I'm all for Hunter having a gun, and I'm against Hunter getting any criminal charges for the guns and all of that stuff. The influence peddling, yeah. I mean, he should be in jail for that, right? You can't exactly sell access to your vice president dad. So he's definitely a criminal, right? That's what I see. Now, everyone deserves a fair chance, and everyone gets to have a trial, but it looks like from what we've seen, he's guilty, right? But the guns and the IRS stuff, right? Let's go. It gets even funnier. Hunter Biden suing the IRS is perfect, just perfect, right? Now, go back to the commercial products and the vaccine and what the vaccine is going to do. Aaron McIntyre had a really interesting thing to say about news from the Bud Light story, the Bud Light protests or boycott or whatever, right? So if you remember at the beginning of the summer, boycott started for Bud Light because they had Dylan Mulvaney, the trans person. Now, I'm not here to pick on Dylan, right? I think Dylan's in a weird position here. You know, you got the one who's the health surgeon general or whatever, the health one in America, who's, we're not confused that this is a trans woman, right? It's pretty obvious. I can't remember the person's name, but with the hair, and it's clearly a man who has transitioned to a woman and is now considered a female and shows female or whatever, right? So that one, that person, right? We can tell. The problem with Dylan is in the uncanny valley situation. Now, a boy, you can see it's a boy, right? Biological boy, you can tell, but close to being a girl, close. And that does trigger people, right? The uncanny valley. That's just my theory, but I think that uncanny valley is one of the reasons why people react so hostilely towards Dylan. And now the Bud Light thing was ridiculous. They made a mistake, right? And it was a couple special cans and whatever. And it looks like the VP of marketing was an insane person and just useless at their job and no good at it. But the company now is going to probably have to, this beer is done, right? You can't imagine it continuing. Only Canadians will drink it after this, like only Canadians, right? So Aaron McIntyre breaks it down. He says, why did this conservative boycott work when almost none of the others did, right? And he says, because it was done through memetic shaming, right? So what is memetic shaming? He says it's feelings and social stigma that beat logic every single time. That what I've said many times here in the morning, the Ben Shapiro line, right? The whole Daily Wire thing that's always on this trans issue constantly, perpetually, 24 hours a day, it seems. Now they're over a target, and I'm happy that they're doing whatever it is they do. And I'm a fan generally of the Daily Wire, and I'm a fan generally of Ben Shapiro. But his slogan, the facts don't care about your feelings, he's got it entirely backwards. He's got it entirely wrong. It was never that. It was never facts don't care about feelings. It's exactly the opposite. Exactly the opposite. Feelings don't care about facts. And that's what this Bud Light thing was about, right? And so Aaron goes on, he says, there are reasons like market choice and ease of brand selection. And then he says, it's a lot easier to change your beer than your bank, and you have more options. You're very close, Aaron. You were very, very close to the answer. You're right over the target, right? But changing your banks, you're still stuck, right? You didn't read Satoshi's white paper close enough, right? We're not here to change our bank. We don't care about our bank. We're here to change the money, right? The bank, who cares about the fucking bank, right? Trusted third parties are not needed. We don't want them. We don't have a need for them as we go forward. Once you understand Bitcoin, you'll see that the trusted third party problem actually extends far beyond the banks. It extends into the grocery stores. It extends into the media, any third party, basically anything that's not part of a peer group, anything that is not peer-to-peer suffers from what Satoshi mentioned in the white paper, the acceptance of fraud, the acceptance of their failures, and just trying to live with their failures as best we can, right? So Aaron, very, very close to the answer here, right? Right over the target, right? By saying that the beer issue and switching a beer because there are other options was an easier thing to do, and it was an easier memetic boycott, a memetic shame boycott, and that the feelings people had around it were more easily expressed in the marketplace because there were a lot of beer choices and ease of brand selection, right? And he says that, when he says that, right, you have more the market choice, ease of brand selection, a lot easier to change your beer than your bank. And he says, but primarily this was dudes looking at other dudes and saying, really, man, the trans beer, right? And I think that's true, right? I think that's true. Emergent Perspective says it as well in the Twitter thread that came around that. He says, this is an important symbolic victory. Conglomerates still control the beer market, but it's a successful collective action, and was a good team building exercise. The real value will come down the road when the teamwork culminates in a real objective being taken, i.e., in this case, hyper-Bitcoinization and free money, right? Freeing the money, not having it bound by all these third parties in every single way. Because if you just take a look at this commercial product again, right? So, think about what happened with Bud Light, right? Now, take that commercial product and those conditions and apply it to a vaccine, right? So, yesterday, Robert Kennedy was on the Russell Brand podcast. We're going to talk about both of those people in a second, right? So Kennedy went on the Russell Brand thing, or it was released, and they got deep into the creation of the vaccine, where it came from, who was running point, what kind of a product it was, what was the product release, right? So here's the text from Kenneko the Great, right? So Kennedy talks to Russell Brand about how the NSA was in charge of Operation Warp Speed, the history of the United States bioweapons program, and why Anthony Fauci is the highest paid government official in history. And he says, the weird thing about the pandemic was this constant involvement by the CIA, the intelligence agencies, and the military. When Operation Warp Speed made its presentation to the FDA committee called VRBPAC, it shocked everybody because it wasn't HHS, CDC, NIH, FDA, or a public health agency. It was the NSA, a spy agency that was the top agency that led Operation Warp Speed. And the second agency was the Pentagon. The vaccines were developed not by Moderna and Pfizer. They were developed by the NIH. The patents are owned 50% by the NIH, nor were they manufactured by Pfizer or by Moderna. They were manufactured by military contractors, and basically Pfizer and Moderna were paid to put their stamps on those vaccines as if they came from the pharmaceutical industry. This was a military project from the beginning. One of the things I uncovered in my book is 20 different simulations of coronavirus and pandemics that started in 2001. The first one was right before the anthrax attacks, and the CIA sponsored them all. The last one was Event 201, which was in October 2019. One of the participants was Avril Haines, the former director of the CIA, who has been managing cover-ups her entire life. She did the Guantanamo Bay and others. She is now the director of national intelligence, which makes her the highest ranking officer at the NSA, which managed the pandemic. All of these simulations were about how you use the pandemic to clamp down on censorship. How do you use it to force lockdowns? Now, I always bring people back to the Canadian case, right? So Canadians, because they're so laughably stupid, always provide an even more funny example of this kind of stuff in the wild. And it was the case, of course, that you might have heard of in Nova Scotia. So that's the extreme Atlantic province in Canada, just north of Maine and out into the sea. Beautiful place. I mean, one of the most gorgeous places on planet Earth. I mean, absolutely the best. And great, really pleasant, nice people. They're all old, right? They don't, it's just shitty and old there. That's the sad part, but gorgeous, right? And so what they did at the beginning of COVID, and we know this for a fact, right? So what they did at the beginning of their lockdowns in autumn or spring 2020 was their military bases or whatever leaked a rumor that because the lockdowns were in effect, the wildlife was actually coming out of the forests and into the towns, and that there were wolves, wild dogs and wolves that were now coming into town. So they told that in press releases and broadcast that out. Then they actually had speakers engaged broadcasting the noise from wolves in the forest to scare people even more, to make them think it was there. Then they got caught and it was a big scam. And they found out this was a tactic the Canadian military had used in Kandahar, in Afghanistan. Canada, of course, had a large role in Afghanistan, in Kandahar. They protected many poppy fields. They made sure the supply of opioids were coming straight out of there. They did a great job. And all that time, they learned about these psychological operations. They had a lot of poppy fields to protect, of course, right? So they had to learn how to keep people away, and they did it with noises like wolves and stuff like that. So that's just one way to manipulate them. The other one was the censorship piece, right? So this commercial product, as we've known for a long time, has been intimately related to the NSA and all of these psychological operations. So now that we're at the point where we understand just how bad the censorship thing is, you can start to understand, for example, what's going on with Russell Brand. He's getting targeted, I think, for even talking about these things, right? We've seen what happened to him. The whole concept of having to um, um, the whole concept of having to lock down and censor information for this stuff to be able, these products or whatever it is, to be to have the necessary momentum to even have commercial applications is why this nudging is going on, and why you have to have the fake fact checking, for example, right? The whole system, if you had real fact checkers, if there were such a thing as a fact checker that was a real incentivized, properly institution that really did its job, the fake news and all of the all of them would have to go out of business. They would be exposed in 1 second, right? Now you've got a situation, you know, Valerie Jarrett, she was the one that Roseanne called Planet of the Apes and got canceled, right? Very, funny, but not nice. She not nice. So now her daughter, who's gorgeous, right? Much better looking than the mom. Her daughter, Valerie Jarrett, right, was, Laura Jarrett, right? The daughter. And so Valerie Jarrett worked for Obama. The daughter, Laura Jarrett, now works for, guess who? Guess who? NBC. She's a fact checker. She's one of the fact checkers at NBC, right? So Valerie Jarrett, the Obama aide, they hire this person to do. They hire her to do this, and then she comes out and says, oh, fact checking, and this is Trump defiant of facts, like a bulldozer shoveling falsehoods, was her actual comment on Meet the Press, right? So this is the daughter of a government apparatchik saying that the guy is lying and whatever, right? So obviously, right, this is how it works, right? This is how it works. So and you can go through it, more clearly. Elon Musk even said yesterday, how do most of the legacy media go from superheroes of free speech to supervillains of speech suppression, right? And the answer is that they had to in this case. There was almost no case, right? They literally had to make sure the product sold, that the censorship was contained enough for the product to sell, and that the exercises in, it looks like, lockdowns could go forward. You can see the you can see the hand of all of this when you look closely. Even you can even take the case of Kennedy right now, and you can start to see just how insidious that some of this stuff is. So yesterday, Kennedy was threatened at an event, or 2 days ago, he was threatened at an event. Someone came up to him. It looked like it was going to be trouble. He was in LA, and he had to get, he's got some protectors, right? Like a private security force. They had to spot the person. He was armed. They detained him, and they did their best, right? And they still won't give Kennedy any Secret Service help. They just keep denying it, right? So it doesn't look like he's going to get it. Obama got it in 2007, a full year before the election, because of a similar situation. Doesn't look like he's going to be getting it. So, now that's not funny, right? So I don't want to laugh about that. That's certainly not humorous. But that's where we're at, right? That's where we're at. And when you start to look closely at this censorship issue, right, and the inability to secure, or the inability to want to secure, anyone who speaks outside of the narrative, is sort of an extended part of this censorship regime, right? So if he's not safe to speak, he's not going to speak, right? So that's an advantage. And then you get this guy Blinken, right? Remember Blinken? We love talking about Blinken. So Blinken comes out right yesterday, right, as all this stuff is going on, or a couple of days ago, and he says, without blinking, he says, democracy depends on the free and open exchange of ideas, including online. Oh, thanks, Senator Blinken. That's nice. On this International Day of Democracy, I call on governments around the world to protect citizens' access to information that allows them to make informed decisions. Now, this almost seems designed just to infuriate people. And that's a tactic, by the way. You know the journalist who's in Ukraine? It's a 50-year-old man who wears a wig and presents as a female. So I guess we call her her. And she'll go in these, she's like the news correspondent, right? And she'll come in, and the other day she says that Russia's going to we're going to hunt down Russian supporters outside of Ukraine, even, right? Like really bloodthirsty stuff. Now, none of this is actually real. This is one of those operations where the sole design is to get people to go, "Well, can you believe they've got a trans journalist and she's going to hunt people down? These people are crazy," right? I don't have any proof of that. But if I was going to design something that just trolled people and made them angry and had no other purpose, it would look a lot like that. That's what I would do, right? I would create, it's as trolling as you can get, right? You can be, I have friends who will always say, I'm a, like between people and in environments, right? I'm a little like Trump. I'll say the thing that no one wants to say and you know, laugh at the reaction and the shitstorm you cause, right? I'm kind of that guy. So I'm pretty good at knowing what things will trigger people. And if I had to design something to troll all kinds of people who are like searching for truth in Ukraine and all this stuff, I would hire a very absurd looking trans person to say they're coming to hunt you and take your rights away, because that's the best scenario to get you angry, right? You won't be able to see anything clearly after seeing that. Like if you're getting threatened from some back room in Ukraine by an online influencer who wears a wig. Now, I don't know if this person is even really trans. Like, I don't know. I have no idea, right? I think what we're seeing is an operation just to drive you crazy. And it would look like Senator Blinken sending out Secretary Blinken sending out a tweet like this, right? Hey, we're here for freedom, right? We're here, everyone, especially online, right? Especially online. So Mike Benz, who is, I didn't know Mike Benz until a few weeks ago. Mike Benz Cyber is who he is on X. I still call it Twitter accidentally sometimes. Some people call it X all the time. Mike Benz says this, right, about Blinken's quote. Now, he's not going to where I'm saying that this is maybe deliberate to design to troll you and all these other things, right? But here's what he says. "Let me say this again. Internet freedom for thee, so we can pump up dissident groups to challenge your government." So this is what I mean, right? Like you have a fault tolerance for so much dissidence stuff because you can reframe it and repackage it. So that's what he's saying. "But internet censorship for me, so we can shut down dissident groups who challenge our government. Understand this, and it cuts through the bullshit," right? That's what Mike Benz says. So Mike Benz also broke down another pretty interesting story, and that involves. Let me get to this other one of Blinken first, right? So this one's pretty funny of Blinken. This is another one of those ones that you just have to laugh. Like it couldn't get funnier. It couldn't be funnier. So Blinken is talking about giving the long-range missiles, right? So he's going to give long-range missiles to Russia. And he's on ABC News. And the ABC News person says to them, right, asks him, because these long-range missiles, of course, can hit deep into Russia, right? And this has always been sort of a red line, right? So the guy says to him, the guy asked Blinken, what if you shoot these into Russian territory and it escalates into World War III, like the normal question, right? What happens if you do that? And then this is the best part, right? So Blinken's there on TV, and it didn't look like he was expecting this. And so he freezes and then doesn't blink and gives the answer. Well, that's their problem, right? That's their decision. That's their decision, not ours. But he looked like he was a hostage. He looked like he had been kidnapped and was trying to like give you a sign that he was under distress. He kind of knew it would cause World War III, and it didn't seem like he was ready for it. But just this idea of watching Blinken not blink as he's clearly lying, right? Like that's their decision, not ours. It's pretty good. Now, I don't think he wants to start World War III. He might not have a choice anymore. He took the job. I don't think he knew what the job was before. If he's smart enough to know what was going on, he doesn't strike me as a guy who knew what was going on with the NSA and COVID and all this stuff, right? He seems like a guy who was like, oh, if I just get that job, I won't have to go back to the university or whatever he does otherwise, right? Now, I could be wrong about Blinken. Maybe he is a 4D chess guy working on all kinds of crazy stuff. I think he's just a captive sort of academic policy wonk guy who was like, oh shit, I'm involved in tyranny. Maybe I'll start World War III by accident. It's pretty funny to watch him there in that position, right? Not as funny as watching Biden decompose before our eyes. That is funnier, right? Watching Biden just try to do basic stuff is funnier, but this is not bad either, right? So here's the other story on let me see if these Mike Benz. Yeah, I wanted to give you the other Mike Benz one. So this is just our last little note on Ukraine, and he says Ukraine is a gas war in the same way that this is David Sachs. Ukraine is a gas war in the same way that the Iraq war was an oil war. Even many of the names are the same: Halliburton, Soros, Cheney. And Mike Benz looked into all this, and he says the following. Okay, this literally took 3 seconds to crack. The Bokyo, so the oil rig, he's referring here to the oil rig that apparently was taken, that the Russians had taken years ago in Crimea, and now has been taken back, apparently. And he says the Bokyo Tower, so this is out in the sea. The Bokyo Towers oil rig was bought by Naftogaz in 2011. Naftogaz is Ukraine's state-owned oil and gas giant at the center of the Burisma scandal. When Russia took over Bokyo Towers by force in 2015, the Naftogaz investment went to shit. Here's why that matters. Naftogaz is the crown jewel of the joint Houston/London Grand Ukraine energy play. For a decade, the Chevron Houston right and the Shell UK Soros left had two goals: privatize Naftogaz to its own profits, kill Gazprom. Naftogaz gets billions instead. So I already like this framing here: the Chevron Houston right and the Shell UK Soros left. That's a really good framing, right? I've never seen the world described that way, but it makes sense. Lo and behold, Chevron Houston gang signed a $10 billion deal with Naftogaz in 2013. That same year, Shell London gang also signed a $10 billion deal with Naftogaz. Exxon, the Houston gang, signed a deal with Naftogaz in 2011, and Halliburton, Houston gang, inked Naftogaz deals. Understand, all these investments by Chevron, Exxon, Halliburton, and Shell, all of them dropped to dog shit in 2015 when Russia backed East Ukraine's breakaway. That's because all the shale is in East Ukraine. Without military intervention, the grand Ukraine energy play dies on the vine. Soros owns Halliburton stock and drives Naftogaz privatization. McCain was his best friend in Ukraine. This is the Yankee Cowboy Alliance. Together, they reap windfall profits by using the State Department, Pentagon, and CIA as a battering ram to secure and protect lucrative business deals. Worth noting that the company that Naftogaz bought the Bokyo Towers oil rig from was a UK energy firm. So British energy firms get paid on the way in, get paid on the way out. It's actually kind of insane. And so this is his point here. It's actually kind of insane how perfectly censorship industry operations by British intelligence complement the financial interests of the British energy giant. To put a bow on this, how did I wake up bleary-eyed seeing a headline about Ukraine seizing a random oil rig and Grok and Houston and London link, and Grok a Houston and London link? Because these two cities are the center of the censorship industry. The story of censorship is this foreign policy mafia taking over the internet. Now, that's the story, right? Indeed, that is the story. And the closer we get to seeing that story, the easier it is to see and follow the money to find out exactly what nefarious forces are actually controlling the world, right? And when you start seeing them like that, then you understand, again, of course, more or less what happened with Russell Brand, right? Russell Brand, we now know. Now, the things that he's accused of doing, okay, they don't sound great. They sound pretty bad, right? But here's how insidious these guys are. When they came out and said, oh, it was with a 16-year-old girl, you have to read halfway down the article in the Rusty Rockets thing to find out that 16 years old is perfectly legal. Now, it's not great, but guess what? A guy who's 6'4", right? One second. you're 6'4" and you're a movie star and you look like Russell Brand. Guess what happens? It's an unlimited supply. Unlimited supply. You don't even have to get to a hotel room. I've known people like that. It happens in the washroom. You can't even get out of the house. And now, were there girls who disagreed and said no while it was going on? Yeah, but at a certain point, he's been through so many of those experiences that, in my opinion, it's not the same kind of no, right? It's like, it's not exactly that. Now, there is a problem in the world with that whole thing, right? And I won't deny that there's a problem between boys and girls in many instances with consent and this and that. And we lived in a way that we accepted for a long time that wasn't great, right? But there's other parts of the story that are impossible to understand. Any one of these instances where you get one guy and one girl and one person after the fact says, I wasn't that okay with it, you still have to hear the other side of the story. It's not as simple, right? It's just not that simple. It's not always power and not power. Oh, he's a celebrity and she's not, so therefore he's necessarily guilty, right? The number of women, the ability that he even had to understand the difference between one who really doesn't want to and one who kind of doesn't want to, right? Who would know? But it could be true, right? But here's what we know. It turns out that they went after every woman he had been with and tried to court them into saying these things. So we found out, right? Here's Sargon of Akkad, Carl Benjamin, talking about what happened. 4 anonymous women were approached by reporters to make allegations against Russell Brand years after the purported occurrences because Brand is influential and in opposition to the regime narrative. Don't take my word for it. This is from their article. So this is from a person who says, all said they felt ready to speak only after being approached by reporters. Several said they felt compelled to do so given Brand's newfound prominence as an online wellness influencer with millions of followers on YouTube and other sites. So right in the article, they're saying, if he wasn't famous with right-wing people, we wouldn't have done it. So, I mean, maybe. We'll see. Now, oh yeah, and this is going to be great. So this week in New York City, glad I'm not there. This is always the worst week in New York. It's not even close. This is the worst week in New York City. Why? The UN is here. The UN comes to New York City. None of the streets work. They take over everything with their stupid motorcades. You can't get off the island of Manhattan. You got to walk everywhere, right? Not even the subways work properly because it's so crowded. And they're there to talk about global boiling, not because it's the UN chief. He says it's not global warming, it's global boiling now, right? Even though boiling is at 200 degrees Fahrenheit and our average temperature remains 50 Fahrenheit. Right? So boiling. Antonio Gutierrez is going to be here this week, and it's going to be that shit, right? So the Associated Press special UN summit protests, week of talk, turn up heat on fossil fuels and global warming, right? That'll be this week in New York. So that'll be annoying, and everyone's going to lose their minds. So between the laughing at those guys, laughing at everything that's going on in DC, laughing at Hunter and the IRS, all of these things in the same memetic way are more beneficial, I think, to rise to the point of a complete and total absurdity, which is where we're at. It's almost impossible to tell the difference now between jokes, humor, and the stuff we're seeing in reality. But with this track record, with what we've seen in the news, and just how absurd it's getting, missing F-35s, Blinken, Biden, get new vaccines, no one's going to take them, right? The capacity to push people towards that, pretty much done. So I think we're going to be laughing at this stuff for a while to come, and it's better to laugh than cry. And the amount of laughter, I think, is more beneficial for what it is we're trying to do. Now, there's two other things, I guess, two or three other things. The first one is the stupid, not smart, thing Kennedy did this week with banning fracking. Did you guys see that? Banning fracking. Now, I get why he wants to do it, and I'm not comfortable with the amount of plastics in our world, right? I still get some plastic water bottles quite a bit, and I wish I could only get glass, but you can't. I don't know. I don't know what dangerous plastics pose really. But Kennedy's talking about banning it, changing it, or whatever. But the fracking part doesn't make sense to me. Now, I'd be totally fine if Kennedy said we have a different energy. Once we get different energy systems built, okay, we can think about the fracking end. But as far as I can tell, America needs to get maximum energy in order to get out of this trouble. So we'll see. We'll see what the deal is. But is that shirt polyester? No, I only wear. Kepenta asked me if it's polyester. I try to only wear cotton. I mostly only wear cottons. I don't really make many plastic blends. I got like all my underwear stuff. I got rid of anything plastic a while ago for that. I still wear some workout clothes that are probably pretty plasticky. But there you go. So the that on Kennedy, not great. One that was great, I think, and people are criticizing him today. It's the Trump thing on the abortion, right? A lot of people now saying Trump, I don't know if you saw, he was on Meet the Press, which is a very left-wing thing this weekend. And he said about the abortion, everyone's going to be happy, right? Blah, blah, blah. And a lot of people who are 100% pro-life, and by 100% pro-life, I mean no exceptions, right? So that there is a situation there. I don't have an opinion on this abortion question. I think women will take care of it, and I'll take whatever answer they have. I'm just here for the censorship part, right? When people can't talk about stuff, that's where I think we can go. Or when you're talking about how the actual argument is taking place. So Trump jumped in and said this. Now, I think practically he did the right thing, right? As far as just trying to win. He's where Americans are. It's less dramatic. So I think it'll work. He's also putting you in the position of seeing him as president already, and this is one of his best tricks as he runs, right? He makes you see him. He did this one which was just perfect about all the political prisoners, right? So he says, day one, when I get in office, I'm going to create a commission to look into all the people who have been imprisoned for political reasons, the January 6th people and everything like that, which is just perfect, right? Because then it already makes you think of him as president, making decisions, doing things, setting up a commission. He's not sitting there arguing, do we have political prisoners or not? That's the stupid plan, right? The stupid plan is to say, oh, Biden is wrong, and I don't think we should get these people out. No. He doesn't even bother with the argument. He's already transported your brain to the point at which he's won the presidency, and he's making actions. He's doing stuff, right? He's getting them out. He's got a commission. He's got people doing it. This thing is kind of in the same vein, right? He's pushed you already because his exact quote was, "People are going to be happy," right? People are going to be happy. Everyone is going to be happy, is what he said, right? He says everyone is going to be happy, and because he was willing to compromise, right? So right away, he's putting you in the spot where you think of everyone being happy and they're getting over this stuff, which I think is a good take, right? So there you go. That's what I got. I was going to talk a bit about elections because that was also part of the censorship and stuff like that. But I think I'll save that tomorrow. This was Trump as well saying that he was the person who created the idea that the election was rigged, and it was his idea. And I think we all agree with that. So there you go. There you go. That's what I got. Let's see some of these comments. Maybe North Koreans hacked F-35 and pilot had to eject. Yeah, I a lot of people saying that a lot of this the North Korean hackers, that they're the ones sitting on the Bitcoin. A lot of people think it's just a scapegoat, right? That it's American forces, American folks that are doing it. So yeah, it's one of those promises that he will go get votes and can modify. Well, I mean, he doesn't really need to do anything. He's talking about a federal law which would take away his major advantage, which is getting states and provinces to be in charge of this subject, right? So his whole plan there is a good one, right? I think 50 different scenarios, which is what America can offer with its amount of states approaching this, is the right way. One second. There we go. Kids are getting restless. Kids are getting restless. I like it. Had to eject. Yeah. Let me see the question you got for me. A Muslim Bitcoiner. Assalamu alaikum. Thoughts on the future of KYC versus non KYC? Is it better going through the hurdles like BISC, RoboSats, or just buying from Coinbase and transferring to hard wallet is good enough? That depends on if you're American. I think that the KYC stuff is relevant mostly to Americans. I think if you're not, it's not as big of a deal. One second. So, look, I'm personally, um, I don't know if we win the whole privacy thing, not because of government and surveillance, because of choice, feelings. Again, I think people don't mind giving away their personal information for commercial reasons. I don't know if I don't know if we fix that this time. I think we're going to fix the money and government question, but I'm not sure if their tie is in the KYC thing exactly. So I don't know. I kind of do both. I don't really worry too much about it. I know it's good to know the hurdles on getting non KYC, and because I come from a time and have hodled since Bitcoin from pre any concept of KYC. I don't think about it as much. I probably should. So I think it's good to know because you never know when the things can get turned off. So knowing how to do non KYC is good. I don't know if you have to be pure in that, I guess is what I'm saying. If I was to be totally safe, I would say, yeah, for sure, all non KYC. It's the only way to guarantee. But I mean, I don't have much expectation of competency from the government on any of this, so that's where I'm at, right? That's where I'm at. So sorry, I don't have a great answer for you, Muslim Bitcoiner. It's not something that I get too stressed out about personally. Foreign mafia taken over the internet on behalf of petrochemical corporate tyranny. Extinction Rebellion got it cold. Yeah. We're gonna win, guys. We're winning. Veterans, Fiat Effery getting so thick it's hard for sheeples to even walk or wade. What happens next? Mass starvation, chaos, World War III, perhaps? It's not looking good. It's not looking good. But it's looking funny. Reminds me of Carl Oglesby, Cowboy, and Young Yankee War. I'm going to check that out, Daniel. Thank you for that. Bitcoin miners, only fact checkers that are effective. Yeah, I love that. I never even thought of it that way. I also found out that everyone wants secret service. Weren't they implicated in the murder of his uncle? They actually murdered his uncle. Yeah. I mean, if RFK is using this for persuasion, I don't mind, right? Because the truth is, what was the first thing you thought of when you heard a Kennedy was running for president? Whoops, be careful, right? So that he's doing this, he's preying on something that he already knows is inside generatively in people's heads, right? They generated that thought themselves, and those are always more useful to play on. So I think he's just trying to create a narrative around that. But I'm mind reading him. Maybe he is really worried. I've seen his personal protection and didn't find it great. And I do worry about it, but I hope he's safe. I hope he's safe. That's it. But yeah, I think the deception of them killing his dad probably can be avoided, right? They probably just didn't see it coming or didn't understand the threat at the time. So that could be it. Lower Bright Enterprises versus Raimondo was the case I mentioned before, challenging the Chevron doctrine on Supreme Court. Political headline could spell doom for power of federal regulators. Okay, Matt, I'm going to take a note of that right now and make sure I talk about it next time. Sounds a little bit like the Jarkissi case. Okay, I'm gonna look into that. P-Man, do you have anything sketchy in your past? No, I don't think so. I had a investigation done a couple of times. I was a political candidate in Canada in 2011 for the federal to be a member of parliament, so the federal like a congressman in the States. But pretty clean. I mean, they didn't go out and look in Korea and Japan and all the crazy stuff I did when I was a young man there. But luckily there's no records of that. It was wild, but nothing, not even anything like Rusty Rockets. Not even that level. A lot of fun though. We had a good time. But surprisingly, when I got my top secret security clearance, they knew about a lot of the borders I crossed, but not the trouble I got into, obviously. Western military protected the supply of poppy from Afghanistan until fentanyl came along. Then they realized spreading democracy was needed there more. Yeah, that's why I mentioned it. Yeah. Now that we've got fentanyl. I mean, the only way to interpret what's going on in Mexico and, here's what happened, right? Alien Day? Remember Alien Day in Mexico when the aliens were brought out? The aliens. So when the aliens were brought out, the same day, did you know that El Chapo's wife was released from prison that day? Did you know that? They arrested his son, but his wife was released. So his wife's out of jail. And the only way to interpret the fentanyl question is that some powerful force wants it there. There's no other way, right? Is it because China's screwing us over? I mean, are they that strong? Can China really screw Americans over? Do they own the American government to that extent that they can just push fentanyl on us? I don't think so. I think there's definitely people in China making money off of this, but I think inevitably it's someone on the American side. I mean, how hard would it be? How many snipers do we have in the United States? I mean, we got a lot, I bet. What if we don't build a wall and you tell the snipers, okay, any coyote, you just shoot the coyotes, shoot the people bringing humans over, and it will be over in 2 days. 2 days. If they pecked off just the leaders of each of the migrant pods coming up, would they keep, after 2 days of every single guy dying, every single coyote dying, would they keep coming? I don't think so. I think it would be over in 2 days. So clearly they're not, and Trump couldn't stop it either. Right? So what is it that Trump couldn't stop that Biden seems not even interested in stopping? So it must be a domestic force beyond Trump's sight, beyond Trump 1 sight, right? Trump 2 might be different, but Trump 1 couldn't see past it. So couldn't move past it. It was a constant problem. Not as bad as it is now, but clearly they want this. Clearly, right? Clearly. So no good. Shirts pressed. Well, this is a natural. I didn't press it. It's a natural. This is a natural, non wrinkly one, I think. All humans can be stupid and dangerous given certain communication inputs. Absolutely. All that. By the way, my NPC handbook, Bitcoiner's Guide to NPC Management. We're all NPCs. Like there's no one gets off the hook, writer included. That's just the way we're wired, right? We can all be persuaded. Even the Mexican alien story, right? Of course, I always knew it was fake, but for a split second, the first time you saw it and they had the X-ray images next to it, you're like, whoa, there's a body part. It's fake, obviously. And my being fooled lasted for under 1 second, right? It wasn't even a full second of being fooled by it. But like anyone, you want to believe, right? I want to believe the X-Files, right? I want to believe. It would be great, right? So you see, that little clay papier-mâché guy has organs, right? But of course, you look back at the thing and you go, wait a minute, clearly, it took my brain a half second to figure out the magic trick. But and of course, I don't take any alien story seriously, right? Did you even see that in the famous Guatemala hit the CIA did in the 50s? So now we've seen a lot of the communications around that, right? This is the Allende hit. And when they did the Guatemala hit, the communications from the CIA have come, or whatever it was called then, have come to light from the 50s. And they say right in it, maybe we do an alien diversion, right? They say right in it. In the 50s, they were already thinking about alien diversions to keep Americans from focusing on stories. That was in the 1950s. Do you think they've learned anything since the 50s, right? So the alien diversion thing has been long known to work. So it's just been that, right? Change the money, change the world. My nephew refused or didn't call his trans teacher by his pronouns. My nephew is 10 and now labeled everything phobic. Yeah, bummer, Johnny. Sorry to hear that, man. Got to homeschool, bro. You know, on the trans thing, any individual who ever asked me, and I've known a lot of trans people in my life before this was ever an issue, right? Of course, I have no problem. You don't need laws, right? I wouldn't like if anyone anyone you come into physical contact with who asks for a little bit of courtesy, I'm happy to give it. I would never not give that, right? Now we're talking about a 10-year-old, a teacher. This is all crazy. So I'm totally down with what your nephew did. But as an adult, I wouldn't have no trouble with it. It's the forcing that's the problem, right? And always has been. So there you go. There's a fake news headline out there about like, despite all the money and all the stuff, nothing ever went to Joe, right? Let me see if I can find that one. I had I don't think I put it in Moscow time today. It didn't make it, but I had an exact headline on that. This is the one they're going with now. This is what they're actually going with. It's so good. It's so good. We didn't talk about Italy today, but that doesn't look great. Oh, we didn't talk about Mark Carney. Damn it. They had a big thing in Montreal this weekend with the Jacinda Ardern, the New Zealand loser, and Mark Carney, the biggest financial loser in the history of the world. He called Liz Truss, who was Prime Minister of England for 6 weeks. He blamed Britain's financial trouble on her and said she turned Britain into Argentina on the channel. Even though he was the governor of the bank for however many years. It's so good. He lost $150 trillion allocation for his fund. $150 trillion, more than the global economy. And he lost it all. He lost more money than there is on Earth. And he's out there calling people losers. It's so good. Let me see this one. It was really good. It was really, really good. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Well, I don't know where it is. Okay, this one was good. The red-headed libertarian. The non-binary furries in... I won't read every word she says because some of it gets... some of it's a little... whatever. So this comes with the red-headed libertarian. The non-binary... and this is about, what's her name, Lauren Boebert. She got like felt up. Her breasts were felt up in a movie theater, and she got kicked out, right? And I guess she was cheating on her husband or something. None of it's pretty, right? We're not happy about all of it, but everyone's offended now and they say she should quit because she cheated on her husband, right? So all these people are out there saying it. So the redheaded libertarian says the non-binary furries and polyamorous sex pods who are transing their 3-year-olds want you to know that getting felt up in a movie theater is reprehensible. It's funny. It's funny. It's all funny today. The news is only funny. There's only funny news. Where is this one? Where is it? It was great. It was great. Anyway, don't know where it is. I think that's all I got for today, though, team. I will see you tomorrow. Let me know if I'm missing any story here. Let me know if there's anything else. I don't know where I put, it was just some headline. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's just some guy saying, they haven't shown Joe getting any money. Joe didn't get any money, right? Only I thought the prostitution was a write-off. It was. He did not claim the crack. He did not claim the crack. Won't get the juice. Yeah, maybe. All right, team. Let me know. Let me see if I've got anything here. Peace. Happy Monday, freaks, indeed. Peace, everyone. Be good. See you later. Oh, dang. I forgot to ask for something. Brian Ramel was into aliens and precious metal in their bodies. Was he serious? Don't know. I mean, look, like I said, anyone can get. He wants to believe, so I think he's just having fun. I don't think Brian Ramel reminds me of someone who's just trying to do his best every day and not get caught up in this stuff, right? So I think he's not trying to pretend that the world is better. I think he's just trying to make it the way he thought would work, you know. Nipa, that's the island in. Yeah, we'll talk about the island in Italy tomorrow, I think. All right. Reminder on updates, face turquoise, covering eyes. Yeah, I'm going to just publish it. I'm just going to publish it. I'll stick with non-KYC then, especially being a Muslim in US, face orange. Yeah, good idea. Yeah. All right, team. That's all I got. Peace.